Oh my, spring days are hard to beat. Spring days are hard to beat in Tennessee. I mean, fall days are great too, but then you have a great summer day on the lake with the boat. And, I don't know, spring's the favorite for sure. All right, so video that a lot of y'all have been waiting for. Many of y'all have asked for. We're gonna go meet up with Mandy. We're gonna talk real estate. Talk real estate in Tennessee. I'm telling y'all right now, the pollen going on right now in East Tennessee is no joke. All right, so we're at Realty Executives in Maryville. Like I said, we're gonna meet with Mandy Street. Some of y'all have worked with her, some of y'all have heard me mention her. She's an awesome local realtor. She's gonna help us out with some questions on real estate in East Tennessee. Ready? Yeah. All right, so Mandy Street. Y'all have seen me reference her. Many of y'all have talked to her. She's gonna help us out with some questions. This is a perfect little backdrop for us to do a video and stuff. And I'm just kind of putting the vlog part together, and then we'll do this as like a separate video too that you could use or whatever you want to do. Perfect. So we'll set it up and get going. All right, well, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, and many people have asked for it. So again, it's Mandy Street. Mandy B Street. I like the B Street. Yeah. Like I love B is just the middle initial.
It's my no, it's my maiden.
Oh, it's maiden. Okay.
That's a southern thing.
I like it. Like the Mandy B Street. Like just sounds like it's a cool like username and everything else too. So I forget how did we link up?
My son was in the boat parade. He had a boat in the.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And so he was in your video multiple times.
Okay, cool.
And then even after that, I think I have shot you a message before and said, hey, can I use one of your, I used a still photo.
Oh, the Townsend one.
The
That's what it was. Okay.
For the Townsend cabin. Because it matched the
perfect,
stain was nice. Perfect. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just randomly on social media, and I've referred a couple people, and they just haven't followed through. And I remember she was like, yeah, like I'll talk to anybody you want. And I was like, okay. So sent her a couple people, and they had great feedback, and she actually responded. And I appreciate that more than anything, because it's so hard to get just a person to take the time to respond. Or it's funny because people will say like, oh, I've got too much going on, or I'm too busy. Yeah. But you can never be too busy, I feel like. No. So it's just an excuse.
Time management.
So she was like, bring it on. So I started throwing out her name, and many, like I said, many of y'all have talked to her already, and many of you want to talk to her. So we're going to hash through these questions that I threw out a couple posts, had y'all just, ask any questions that you wanted to hear, or worries that you had, or just random questions that maybe you couldn't find on the internet. A lot of stuff you can find on the internet. Mm-hmm. You just got to do a little work. A lot of it can be found out by actually coming out here and seeing the area. It's very hard to tell somebody across the United States what's right for them. Or, like, you have to see it, especially with something like real estate. Your biggest investment in most people's lives, you got to come see it yourself. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, though, we do have some good questions to go through. And I think the biggest question is, why is the market so crazy? Yeah. Why is it so hard to buy a house in Maryville? And I think it's crazy everywhere, right?
It's crazy everywhere. I think and probably everybody in California is seeing it too. I mean, it's across the board crazy. I mean, it's just a little extra crazy, I think, here. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, in a nutshell, it's kind of all the same thing. We are just experiencing lower inventory, record low interest rates. And so that is causing, and we do have, with the flux of, if it's people moving, a lot of these out-of-state clients are coming because they're selling what they're selling their homes for in California to be able to purchase here. Mm-hmm. They're coming with cash.
Right. They're able to buy outright.
Yes.
Okay.
And so cash is a huge driving a lot of the frenzy.
Okay.
Because it's changing up how we're writing contracts. Cash buyers are able to come in and go in over $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 and bring that money to the table, if we were to come in low on an appraisal. Okay. That's part of what is making it feel so crazy. Okay. And I think that was even one of the questions. And this is, what people will say, is there any advice, for us to not get discouraged? Or can people that
is
are
there
financing,
hope for us? Yeah.
Is there financing? Are people still getting houses if they're going to finance as opposed to being a cash buyer? Yes. you can still get in a house using financing. And that's probably the bigger kicker. And I think when people are moving, that's what they're going to say. What do we do? Like, do we have to? I know that ended up being a long thread on one of the questions. Do we have to be there and be working for 2 years worth? No.
Okay.
That's ultimately, at the end of the day, we have got to get them with a local lender.
Okay.
She or he will walk them through all those things. Actually, out of, since we've kind of started this, I think I have about 5 of you guys that have reached out, and there's 2, they're already well on their way. One put a sign in their yard Monday in California.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Already got all their things going with a lender here in Knoxville, one of my preferred lenders, and they've got things worked out. There's a million different scenarios. I mean, down to they're bringing a grandmother or an in-law with them. They're able to use her on the loan. There's so many scenarios. So I always say to people, it's almost like which comes first, the chicken or the egg. What are you going to do first? You have got to talk to that local lender, because that's another thing with the contracts. If there's a stack of 5 contracts and half of these lenders are out of state or people we can't easily get to, that local lender is going to win out.
Right. That's a very good point then. If you're coming with someone out of state, they're going to work with someone locally that they know anyways, and they can drive down the street if they need to.
Right. And it's just even for the comfort of these local people selling, they may already know, oh, we've worked with that person. Yeah. And they feel secure in the realtor and the lender, and that makes them feel good about that contract. So that's if there's any point, that's a biggie.
Now, as far as Tennessee goes, I know we're specific to East. Is the market kind of crazy from just your opinion, West, Middle, East? Is it kind of the same thing? I know when I go to Nashville, we're going to Nashville this weekend, it blows me away when I drive down Broadway and I see the amount of development. Yeah. Just from apartment buildings going up right on Broadway versus the developments, and just, it's kind of everywhere, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to focus in Maryville. Maryville's a great area. Blount County is an amazing place.
Yeah.
But there's so many great spots outside.
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee. If you go south of Franklin, south of Nashville, so many great spots down that way. And really, it's just, you got to get out here and see it.
You do.
There are so many people that have told me they fly into Nashville, they head south. I don't know what the highway is, but they go south to Chattanooga, then they come back up 75 towards us, hit Knoxville. Some will go up towards Johnson City and then come back, and then they cut back across 40 and go to Nashville. It's the best drive.
It is. That's what a huge majority. And I have a couple that's coming from Colorado, and they were loving that Franklin. They thought, and they had spent they'd done this trip a couple times. They were almost thinking it was going to be Franklin, and then after coming and hanging out, being downtown, they loved the downtown Knoxville, the Farragut kind of area. They were totally digging that. So that kind of swayed. But again, they would have never known that had they not come,
yeah.
And they had to do it a couple of times. And then when we started talking, we were able to have good conversation, because when they would throw out, hey, we stayed at so-and-so, what do you know about that? Or from there, is that...
You can relate.
Yeah. Or even for things that were big deals to them, if it were, and for one particular, be a VA hospital, how far are we from? Well, whenever, then we can start mapping things out and saying, okay, this is our area. This is our sweet spot. Knoxville, Maryville. And that ultimately is what happened. They were they were hanging their hats on Knoxville and then not really realizing that actually, if I'm in Maryville or I'm in Louisville or I'm not that far.
Right. Yep.
So, but you can't get there until you've spent a little time.
And that's just it. It's the family vacation isn't to Hawaii this year. It's let's go see where our future is if we're really serious about it,
right.
And like we say, 90-95% of people are just talk.
Yes.
They won't actually show up, but there has been quite a few that have shown up and are looking to make that move and that improvement, and it's great, and it's good to see them out here.
Yeah, and that's what I say. That's what I always will say. I give everybody a little homework whenever we start the process, no matter if they're local or not. And that's when I see if you do your homework, then I'll know that we'll be able to move forward. And that's what with one of the couples that had contacted seeing your video, they came out, we met, and we spent 2.5 hours at Southern Grace Coffee Shop talked. They told me things they were seeing. I was able to then say to them, go drive by this, and this.
Yeah.
And they're able to do it, talk through it. They've got their kids in the car, and then they send a message and say, we loved when we drove past these areas.
Yep.
We weren't so much into this. Well, then that way, whenever as they get a little closer and a little closer, I'm going to know what we're after, because that's the harder part for people being not from here. 9 times out of 10, whatever decision is going to be made, it's probably going to be made when they're wherever they are, and I'm here.
Yep.
So I have to be able to say to them, remember that feel of, Lonis Drive, that's what this feels like. Or remember the house at whatever, this is the feel
There's
of
some
that.
reference points.
Yes.
Perfect. And that's one of the big ones, is when you actually get out here, things change, because it's we're so, we're blessed to have technology, but we are so spoiled to have it as well, because everyone thinks you just get on the computer and ask a question and you'll find your answer. Like, hey Siri, where do I move to? Don't answer that, Siri. It's just, you do have to do some homework.
Yeah.
And this is a big life thing, life-changing event. So it's a big one for a lot of people. Since we're on that topic, school ratings, crime ratings, all that kind of stuff that you find on those websites.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Is it?
Well, I go back to saying, I think I learned, remember in all of my retail days, they always say a happy customer tells 3 people and an unhappy customer tells 10.
Very true.
I always remember that. So those are important, but even more so than that, it's another, you need to find out. That's the thing, and that's been a huge part of whenever I start talking to these people, I can start sharing, they'll start asking about, because schools, obviously, is a huge thing. My kids have been in the same school. I'll graduate one this year that started at that school when he was 3 in a preschool program.
Oh, wow.
But I have tons of nieces and nephews kind of littered all around in all of our local schools. So I can kind of, you can speak on that. But back to the question, that's still another thing. You're going to have to dig a little deeper than just don't hang your hat on the review. Look at them just like you do anything else.
Join the Facebook groups. There's so many good Facebook groups that you can hop into.
Yes.
And just throw yourself in a Knoxville Facebook group and just get a read for the people. People post all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So
and I think
good feeling.
Yeah. Anymore we have, and there's so many things. I think that was the note that I'd made. There's a million Facebook groups. There's a million things you can sit in on anymore. If it's Zoom, meetings,
school meetings.
School meetings. They're putting them, and that's what our school has put those things. Or you can have a recording or watch them. What else do you have to do? So that's the benefit that we didn't have, a while back. So now it is there, and that's what I would do.
Property taxes, big question.
Mm-hmm. They're I think I'd have printed. We are pretty much now. Let's see here.
So property taxes are low. What other taxes does a homeowner see? Schooling ones.
Maryville City and Alcoa City
will have school tax.
Will have an additional tax, and you'll see that. When we start when people are looking at properties, that always is lined out. You'll see the county tax and a city tax.
Okay.
And that's typical for Maryville, Alcoa. The Farragut area is going to have a little bit of a higher tax, and that ends up being for those things. Goes to school taxes.
We were very used to that in California. It's almost every place, I think, has a school tax.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't have kids or your kids are long gone, you've been paying that tax forever.
Yeah. It's not across the board here.
Okay.
It's very little. Just as an example, that was on one of these things, an example of $100,000 residential property. Your 2020 county property tax bill is $618. Even for the people who want have acreage, for us, we have right at 5 acres. We're in the county. I'm in Maryville. That's my address, but I'm in the county. I'm not in a city limit. And I think our property taxes are about $1,200 a year for a house and the acreage.
And that's one that didn't pop up here that I wanted to the green belt. Mm-hmm. If you were to have acreage, if you do 10, and say you do start farming or, selling produce or something like that, there's a break, right, for green belt?
Yes, it's 15.
15
acres.
Okay,
Yeah.
15 acres.
You need to keep 15.
And that's if you have like
I think
livestock
that's right, yes.
or gardening or farming or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
And then you get a little bit of a break on
Yeah.
the property taxes. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that want to do homesteading
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's good to know. 15 acres,
Mm-hmm.
and that can kind of become a possibility because there's a lot of people that's
Right.
becoming a big thing. I mean, I see YouTube all over YouTube is this homesteading and getting off the grid, and
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
People put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And I always get like, it's like we have chickens, we have like 18 chickens, and I always get like a comment or two. Like someone's like, oh, why don't you build a coop like so-and-so does? And I'm like, that coop cost them like 10 grand. like we just want some
It's
eggs.
not.
Like,
The thing is it's not. People think that, and they're like, okay, we're going to move to Tennessee, and we're going to be living,
off the
like,
grid, and we're gonna homestead.
It's
not
Little
easy.
House on the Prairie.
It's not
No.
easy until the tree falls and busts up your coop, and then it's a nightmare.
But and the thing is you don't have to have 35 acres to have a chicken coop
Yeah.
and some things. That's probably one of the next, like, leading into bigger questions I get. And this is probably where, if it's Californians or whoever are used to paying, like, they want to know about HOAs, restrictions. Well, that'll be the thing. Like this morning, one of the questions was, I'd sent a vacant lot to someone, and it said minimal restrictions, and it is approved for mobile homes.
Okay.
Well, then the next question he had, and he's from California, what are the HOAs? And it's like, dude, there's no HOAs.
There's no HOA. It's
you
not a
can do
development.
whatever you want to.
Do you have HOAs in the developments here?
We do.
Okay.
They're not typically, I mean, when you start getting into what would be higher end, a little more pricey, is more of like Rarity Bay, your water, like on the lake, your $1 million homes, like bigger. So like you're looking at, there's some that could be $45 HOA. And all that is, it's just making sure that the front entry sign is maintained. If it needs to be painted, looks nice.
Yep.
That's about it. Now, there's going to be restrictions in those developments that may say, if you're going to put an outbuilding, it needs to match the home. Or,
Right.
I mean, in every development, it's going to be different. We
Yep.
do not have just like this set in stone across the board, because there'll be a development like out in Greenback, Windsong is one example. I've sold several houses in there. Well, some of those lots are large, like 3 acres or 1 acre. Well, if you have over an acre and it's in a development, you can have like you can have a horse. You could have a small chicken coop. Now, they don't want you raising.
They don't want you
pig
becoming
farm.
a production. Yeah.
Right. But it clearly states it in their restrictions.
Okay.
So it's literally going to be.
So that's where you want to
You're gonna-
have, because a lot of people will mention, like, I don't necessarily need an agent. Like, I can do stuff myself, but they'll miss stuff like that. And that's big stuff, like, especially out here. So, like, knowing that if you're over the acre, you can actually have the livestock.
Right,
you know,
depending on the development. Like if you were in Windsong, that's part of their restrictions. But there's some other developments that have 5-acre tracts, but they may plainly say you can't have that in there.
Right.
It's whoever wrote those, that developer that wrote those restrictions, they can make that however they want.
Okay.
Or you may come across one in their 5-acre tracts and they're totally fine with mobile homes.
And when we say mobile homes, it's not you're not thinking like a trailer necessarily. Like someone pulls in like a trailer and just dumps it there. Like they're actually like really nice modulars now.
Well, that's kind of the difference. There are some that are just straight up pull in on a truck. It's still got the hitch on it. That's a mobile home. And there are some that are still sitting there like that.
Now, does it matter if you drop it onto a foundation?
It does matter. And that's going to be the difference in when you're buying something in the financing. If you're going to finance, it's going to have to be on a permanent foundation. And there are mobile homes that started out mobile, still have the hitch on it, and they go and want to sell. Like I sold one a year ago. It still had a hitch on it. Totally, someone could pull up and drive off
Just
with
take
it.
it out away.
And the person buying, or we knew when we went to list it, either they were going to have to spend the money and put it on permanent foundation, or our buyers were only going to be able to be cash buyers, because you can't get financing if someone could tow it away.
That's a good one to know right there. If someone can tow it, you got to own it.
Yes. It has
Wow.
a title, a slip,
Really?
just like a car.
Oh, how funny.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I did not know that. Okay.
There are certain things like for financing, that hitch has to be removed. It has to be, they have their list of what counts as to make it be permanent.
To be a home. Okay. Good to know. That's a very good one. While we're on that topic, I know one thing a lot of people don't know, and Justin, the guy that I build homes with, he brought this up, is like perk testing and site testing. If you are going to buy land, that's one of the first things you need to do, is you need to make sure you have a soil test done.
Right.
Can I build a home here?
Yeah, because there are some properties that the dirt is just like, there's this beautiful tract of property out in Greenback. I think it's about 15 acres. There's only about one spot on it that would perk.
Really?
For a house. But most people that are after that are developers. Like they would like to do like even 1 acre, 2 acre tracts. You cannot put any other homes on that entire tract.
Because it just won't. The soil won't take.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So what a bummer that would be for people, because that's the other thing is there's so many people that are coming, and I have a handful, and that's the thing. Their goal is to get this acreage because they're going to build a house, and then they want their daughter to be able to build a house, or they're going to bring mother-in-law, and they're going to put her little place. Mm-hmm. Well, we have to be sure that each of these places that you think you want a house will perk. I sold a 12-acre tract to someone out in Friendsville, and that was the thing. They were going to do a house, their daughter and son-in-law. And they were not from here. So that's part of what I did. We set things, and that's when you're going to write a contract on something like that. You have that inspection, due diligence period to get someone out there to be sure that it will perk.
Okay.
To be sure. So that's what I did. I met them out there, set everything up for them, met them out there while they were here on their trip. That's what we did. I was like, let's mark the spots, like, because if you're going to have a soil scientist out to do these soil testing, if he marks and walks over the entire 12 acres, you're going to pay a lot of money for him to do that. So what we've always suggested is, when you're out here driving, you know where that spot is. Like, I want my house to be here.
Right.
Let's make a couple of marks, let him test that area and see if that is good to go. And so that's usually we can be doing that like while they're at home and get that information sent to them. So that's what I've done. Like during that period, I'll meet them out there.
Okay.
They'll get it drawn up, tell us if it will or won't. They'll have the paperwork, and then we can check that off our box and know that we've done that.
So another good reason to have an agent by your side that you can trust.
Or you're going to have to hang out here for a while.
Yeah, and what does like a soil test cost? A couple $100?
Yeah, it can kind of vary depending on how far he's going, how many spots he's going to test. I'm thinking we had him do 3 spots, and it may have been like about $1,000, $1,200.
Which is still a small price to pay versus just going and buying a property and then being told, sorry.
Yeah. And see, we had the contract on the house. Like, we had worked out the deal. We have the contract. And then you have that period of time after everybody's come to terms. We're happy with with the deal that was made. That then this stuff gets to happen. We get to see if it will perk. And if it were to not, then that's when you say, it didn't fit. We can't do what we had planned on doing, and the contract is dissolved at that point.
And all you're out is a couple $100, $1,000 maybe at that. So it's good to know. I
know some people don't want to. You don't want to just be throwing money out, but that's way better than spending the $60,000 on the lot. And what can you do with it? Put a 10 on it?
Yeah. Put a tent with your chicken coop. Yeah. There you go. I think we touched on it a little bit. So buying out of state, you could buy out of state with out of state income, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so if you get a local lender here and you work in California, they still look at your income. Your income's still good to go, right?
And some of it is going to vary on, are you transferring? And even just like when we were back to like that first question too about driving the market, one of the other things is so many people now have realized, of course, thanks to COVID and everybody being on lockdown, lots of businesses are realizing we don't need them in this office all the time.
Yep. So
they can go from. So that has been a huge. That's been a huge part of what I've seen. They might once a month have to go fly back, but now it's like that's the only real business expense, and now they're able to work, which then leads into one of the questions about internet. That's been a biggie, because this is the thing. Everybody wants to move to Tennessee, have acreage, be way far out, but they need high-speed internet.
I need connection.
That's doable. we can do that. I don't know if you've led Better Electronics. They're on 321.
Okay.
They are pretty much who handles all of, like, on those way out places. That will have and some of it may be satellite internet. It's not going to be ATT Uverse.
Yeah.
But it's high speed internet.
And that's one thing I always
yeah.
joke about with being back here is it's like you take a step back in time a little bit, but it's still current, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just everything. Like, not necessarily, people don't care about internet back here. They don't care about having high speed or broadband and stuff. So you get people come from the outside that comes in and is like, hey, we need this. But then it ends up being a convenience and, you know, kind of a plus for everybody because now businesses are getting it, which allows them to streamline their services better. You can get better quality, you know, TV and shows and stuff at your house when you may not have been able to. So it's all good. It works hand in hand. So it's cool to see it start kind of the ball rolling and getting things going.
Yeah, I don't know that there's been anywhere, and I've sold, you know, property out like Allegheny Cove, 6 Mile, you know, I mean, that's wooded, what my daddy will refer to as like mountain land, you know, and they have internet. Like it may not be, it's not ATT Uverse, but they've got some things. Maybe they have to have a booster, you know, from Verizon, a few little extras, but it's doable. Everybody's functioning.
We even look at cell phone service. Look at where cell phone service has gone, right? I mean, you're hard pressed to find somebody without a cell phone nowadays, and even cell phone service has expanded, and everyone's embraced that. So,
and I think one of the things which I'd gotten, and this is just a question, like talking about new construction, if they're going to build or they're buying this land, and you know what it takes, like that, being sure that you can do a septic, being sure. Some of these properties end up having to have a well. Like if there's not city water, you know, at the road, or you start getting into even just like electric, like people will buy property and then they want to build, you know, at the back of that 30 or 40 acres. Well, it's going to cost you money to run electric there.
Run water.
Yes.
Figure out if you need a well back there.
Right. So those are things, and that's like one of the questions was like, or people will say kind of a ballpark, and that's the thing. A well can cost you anywhere between like $5,000 and $10,000 depending on how deep they have to go to hit water. Okay. So just as if you end up being on a property that has to have a well, that's a cost that you'll have to do when you're in your construction phase or whatever. Septic is about $5,000, and then to run power. Back, depending on how far you want to go, I always say like $7 a foot.
$7 a foot. Okay.
Estimate. So that might make you decide, am I going to put my house closer to the road, or are we going all the way back?
That's all good costs, I think, up, because a lot of people think like I want it back there, but they don't bring in those costs at all. And as far as like the cities go, Maryville, Alcoa, you know, Lenore City, when you get in there, most of them have city water, right?
Yeah.
Do they have sewer, or is it kind of mixed septic
it's a
sewer?
Mix.
Okay.
It's a mix.
So you could get into some spots that are so older, maybe that have septic that aren't hooked up yet.
Right.
Okay. And then electric's kind of everywhere generally.
Yeah. It's just a matter of where, like especially when we're talking about acreage, they're going to have to tap on, see where the next, you know, where you're going to tap on and how far it's going to have to be ran back to the home site. But I mean, if you're just typical suburban living, all this is it's already there. It's already there, yeah. But specific to all this acreage, this homesteading.
Because I know we just got water in Friendsville, like city water with PSI and stuff, and they ran it down the street. So it's X amount to tap into it if you wanted to run it in. Otherwise, you're on your well, which, I mean, I love having the well. Like, it's hard water. It's harsh. But it is kind of nice because you just go to water the gardens as we need to, and like you don't ever think about it. But you do lack in pressure. Power goes out. It kind of stinks. You got to run the generator to keep the well going, and like there's all sorts of things that come in with that. So again, back to the we want to homestead and go off the grid. Yeah. You better be ready for a little house on the prairie because it's not all it's cracked up to be sometimes. Thoughts on buying versus building? Anything on that one?
It's obviously with materials, right? It's a preference. It's what you are after. If you're after, you know, finding this piece of acreage and building a house on it, or just buying new construction, that's two different things, really, in my mind. Are you buying the lot and then going to hire a builder to build your dream home, or are we talking just new construction? And there are several new construction developments coming, that are in the works, coming along. I'm hoping to try to get out to a couple of them this week just to start sharing, because they're kind of in the newer, in the making, in the newer. Not everything's hit the market yet.
Right.
That has like larger lots, because I think that's the case too. Just backing back up, most everybody starts out saying we want 5 acres. Well,
let me tell you what 5 acres is.
Yeah, you don't always want.
No.
We have 5 acres, and we don't need 5 acres.
Yeah.
Sure, it's great and it's pretty to look out at, but in life, I don't know. We don't have to have that. So maybe you want a half an acre, because these are people that are used to being boxed in these tight neighborhoods, and they're going all the way to a whole different another extreme. So maybe it's that would you really be super happy with half an acre or an acre in a new little development?
Honey,
Probably.
An acre is gorgeous.
Probably.
An
You'll be
acre's
happy
perfect.
there.
Like, you can still get out there and get the feel of mowing your lawn if you wanted to, but it's not like, oh wow, it's going to take half a day. I got to go cut up the tree. I got to mow 3 acres. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and usually, like for us, that's the thing. We're on this 5 acres. We're about 1,200 feet off the road, which means a big, long gravel driveway.
Yeah.
Cars stay dusty all the time.
Yep.
I mean, it's country living.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But those are things that start to get on your nerves after a while. When you're running the roads to ball games, when you're running, and just like you said, my husband's like, I need to mow.
Yeah,
like,
you have to find
this is a day.
Time to carve out to mow. Like, we were going to go to that new place up in Farragut, 35 North. Like, our friends were going to go after church Sunday ago. Mm-hmm. And they're like, let's go. And my buddy was like, I got to mow. I know.
And that's the thing. People get cracked up at that, but that is like the thing that you'll hear people say. I mean, I just heard it at the ballpark last night. Somebody was talking about doing something, and one of the guys was like, I cannot. Like, a dad. He was like, I have to mow.
Yeah. And that's another cost, too, is a mower. Like, if you're going to have acreage or something, like, even 2 acres, like, you're going to get a riding mower.
Yes.
Like, you ain't going to push. And little battery electric one that worked in the little neighborhood, like, back in California, that doesn't work out here either. No. So that's another cost you got to bring into things.
You have to have the equipment to take care of it. So, but as far as building, just to give them a ballpark, obviously materials, things have gone through the roof.
Ridiculous right now.
So I would say even you have to plan on $200 a square foot, which you're going to know that. Like, you probably, and that's the thing too. Like, my dad's a builder. He has a sawmill. Well, that's what I've been around my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I see, and even I've listed for 2 other builders in our area, and I've watched, like, even to build the same house in a 4 or 5 month time frame, and the exact same floor plan, it'd be $30,000 more just because of the OSB boards, all of the things. So you're going to have to deal with that.
I can't believe OSB costs $35 at Home Depot right now. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's
bonkers.
Price gouging on their part or what, but it's OSB. Like, it's junk, and it costs $35.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yes.
One big one that I don't know anything about is rent. What's the rental market like?
Probably you're going to at least pay $1,200 a month.
Okay. For
very basic.
Okay.
Very little. So that's actually why, I mean, for us, for realtors, I think people, we always get that, they're just sell us something. Mm-hmm. Well, it is like, and I just got a little first-time home buyer into a house. I guess we closed last week, and they were paying like $1,600 a month rent in like an apartment. I mean, it was a nicer apartment, but their son, like, she's like, he gets to play on the parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, and knowing that they could get them a little house and their money, actually, I think the house payment's going to be, it's a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
And he has a yard.
And you're owning something.
Yes.
And, you're investing in the future.
Right.
And, apartments could be your
right.
thing.
And that's what you need to do in the beginning. And even for, like, if this is going back to the people that are trying to get here, you may have to rent for a little while.
Yeah.
If it's that, and I'm that way. I mean, I would have a hard time making a decision on a house that I had not laid eyes on.
Yeah.
And with a market as crazy as it is, unless you just happen to be here and we happen to look at it, that's what you're going to find yourself in.
Yeah.
We're going to be writing offers on homes that you didn't even get to see.
Yeah.
Aside from a video or you hearing me talk about it. So maybe it is that you want to come here, rent for a little while.
It's a good way to find the figure everything out. See if
Right.
you like the place,
Right.
too.
Then you can, and that's actually, I talked to another agent yesterday because we're starting to see, or we're hearing all the time, we have this little app within our office that we're always like, hey, does anybody have this? Can anybody help me out with this? I need a rental for these people, and they're only going to need it for like 4 months. And we were actually just talking, like, obviously people don't really like to do short term,
Short-terms.
but if you have enough people that you can roll in for
Yep.
3 and 4 months, or what we're finding is people are doing extended stays like in Airbnbs.
Airbnbs, yeah. Airbnbs I've seen offer a lot of 1 month stays, or
Right.
especially during like winter periods or something,
When they're
when
not
it's a little
super
bit
busy.
slower. Yeah.
So that's an option if you want to come or make that, come do that, hang out for a little while. If you're not going to be one that can just pull the trigger on a house that you've not laid eyes on, you may find yourself having to do that.
Yeah.
In that meantime.
Okay.
But rent's not cheap. It's not cheap here.
And that goes with everywhere.
Yeah.
I've never seen rent really be cheap somewhere.
Right.
Unless you're going into that kind of neighborhood.
Right.
You're going to get what you pay for type thing.
Right.
But anywhere in just a nice traditional, small town setting, or even suburban, or even in city, like the rent market kind of always seems to follow hand in hand no matter
Right.
where you go.
Yeah.
So that's good to know, because that's a big question.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to at least it's going to be $1,200 to $1,600 and up.
Okay.
I don't know that I know anybody that can hardly get in anything under $1,200 a month.
Okay. Good to know.
Rent.
Another question that comes up often is the flood insurance. They see that a lot on when they're buying property. Some places will require flood insurance.
And it's usually noted. I don't know that I've ever sold a property that has required flood insurance.
Okay, good to know.
It's just that rare.
Good to know. I mean, I haven't. A lot of people have asked questions. They're like, "Oh, yeah, we heard it floods so bad that it closed down streets, and sometimes you can't get out." I'm like, I've never experienced
Yeah.
it.
I mean, there's some that it will, but that's just the thing. That's part of living on Little House on the Prairie. That's
That's what we're going to call this. I'm going to somehow use that without
We'll do
getting in
that
trouble.
running down the field.
We're going to use that. We're going to switch things up. It'll be Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah. If it just kind of sort of snows, we're hanging in
Yeah.
for the day.
Yeah.
So when they say, and there has been like flooding of roads, but I mean it's dried up, later in the day.
Yep.
Sure, I'm just like anything. There's always things that could cause damage.
Sure.
But we're not talking enough that, like I said, I've never sold a property that has required flood insurance. That's just known for. It's just not common.
It cracks me up when it snows here, and you get some people that are just old school, and they're like, "Go get the bread, milk, and eggs." Like we're in here for.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like,
And they do. They
that's it?
truly do just hang out. And schools will be closed. I mean, no one goes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just simple.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool,
Easy,
fine by
simple.
me. Like
Yeah.
I'll stay at home. Like turn that
It's
on.
shut down.
Yeah.
Shut it all down.
On the lines of weather, basements always comes up. Tornado talk is always big out here. It's not.
But we don't really have. That's always
It's
funny
not.
to me.
It's not, and that's why I try to tell people it's not middle and west Tennessee. Like it's not. We're not flat up on the plateau. Like we
Right.
don't get that weather.
Mhm.
Now that's not to say it can never happen. There has been tornadoes out here. Very minimal. I think
Mm-hmm.
when I looked it up, it was like 10 or something on record since the 50s or
Mhm.
something. Very small, EF0 through like EF2 or
Mhm.
something. There are a lot of homes that could have that do have basements, but a lot of more like storage, right? They're
Right.
smaller, not furnished
Right.
type.
I mean, or people have them because they have big families, and it's literally meant for that's like their family, like an additional living room.
Okay.
The game room. It is built.
She shed, man cave,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
Not so much for weather.
Yeah.
Protecting. I mean, like in my entire 42 years of life, I don't ever remember ever having to go get in a closet or like ever having any kind of weather that would cause us to
Right. Good to know.
need to go
Knock on wood.
anywhere.
Knock on
Yeah.
wood. But that's a question that always comes up. Do I need a basement? Do I need a safe room? Do I need this or that? And it's no, you're
No.
not. I mean, if you're up on the plateau, very different conversation.
Right.
If you're up there, as you saw with Cookeville and the Nashville tornado, and even down towards Chattanooga,
Right.
where
That Murfreesboro. I mean, I have a girlfriend that lives there, and they've had several things like, and it's caused damage to the houses. I mean, she just moved into a brand new, new construction house, and like they're gonna have things so much more. It's always
Yep.
something, but that is not what we experience.
so that's
here.
another one. If you are looking at middle
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, you need to look at weather. You need to look at weather patterns, what they've had recently in the past years, like where the trends are going. Because, as I've mentioned before, Tornado Alley, isn't what Tornado Alley used to be. It's not Oklahoma, Arkansas anymore. It's Alabama, Mississippi. Like, all the active weather is coming up from there, and then you get hurricanes that come in, and all that weather comes up still. So it's a lot of stuff that comes up. So East Tennessee's kind of like, thank goodness for the rivers, the plateau, and the mountains. Like, it's a good little to be in. So contingency buying out of state.
Yeah, and that's kind of, probably, if I have to say, that's probably the biggest thing, or the biggest hurdle, aside from can you make a decision not being somewhere, is going the correct route and getting this, your lender, your pre-approval, all those things done. And that's we always say this, like, a pre-qualification and a pre-approval are two different things.
Okay.
Pre-qualification is a phone call that you can make, and you could tell anyone over the phone, I'll make this or this.
Sure, we can
We
got your home.
Gotcha.
Welcome home.
Well, then when they turn in give them their bank statements and give them their W-2s, and it's like, oh, wait, you're not so much. You didn't tell me about that car payment. You didn't tell me about that Visa card. Or you've got a whole lot of overtime on here, but that overtime may not last forever.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference. Like, someone can pre-qualify you based on what you say. The pre-approval happens when they have viewed those documents and they truly give a for real pre-approval. So when they're saying that, like, as far as contingencies, that's what we're seeing that's winning out these contracts. People are already through. They've done all of their loan stuff. They're in a pre-approval. They don't have any sort of lending contingencies to add on this contract. And then, they have these, they'll say that if it comes in low, or I'm going to, bid $20,000 over list price, and if the appraisal doesn't come in, we'll bring that cash to close. So that whole contingency thing can be worked and written in a million different ways.
Right.
But the bigger thing is getting with a local lender and getting yourself all the way through the approval process, and then you look like a strong buyer on paper. Because otherwise, it's not going to work right now.
Well, and I think a lot of it too is like with COVID and this situation we've all been in and through. You start to see stuff coming in you don't agree with, and you're quick to say, I need out. Like, I need out of here. And I think that just goes to a deeper thing of. There's a guy I follow on social media, and he always says you need to have your home in order before you can worry about trying to go fix said problem in the world.
Right.
You need to make sure you have your own home in order.
Right.
Making sure you have good income, that your credit's good, that all your bills are paid, that your house is taken care of. And I know that's a big lesson for me, because we've never really been savers to have an emergency fund. And I've really been trying to focus, and even if it's, tucking away $20 here, $50, $100 there, trying to have my home in order. So when something does happen like this, you're not just, scurrying and just trying to scratch at things and whatever you can do to fix. Like, because if you can come into the game prepared, you have no problem, like I said. Look, no problem. I can sell my house. I can get cash. I can come in here. I can buy my dream home. Like, these things are all lined up, but you have to take care of your home first. Like, what's going on in your house, because nobody else is going to do that but you. So,
and that's what, like, when people, and the lady, one of the people that found me through you, they put, like I said, they put a sign in their yard on Monday, because when we first started talking months ago, like, pretty quickly, one of the first ones that you had told to call me. She was sending me houses. And so I had to back up, like I said, and say, okay, what we need, I have to have a timeline.
Yeah.
And we have to know this, like, when, because she was saying, well, we're not going to put our house on the market till, at that time it was late February. And I said, then we don't even need to talk about houses until then. And until even then, that might be a little soon.
Okay.
When we can really talk about houses is once you go under contract. That means you've put the sign in the yard, you've gotten a contract, and you're even through the funky stages of home inspections that would cause your contract to fall through. You can't be a real player here until you've made it through that stage, because at that point, that's these contingencies that they're talking about. If they come here, Or I try to write a contract for them here, and I'm saying to this Mr. Seller, yeah, they want to buy your house, but theirs is on the market. They haven't had their inspections. He's going to say,
I like this one over here.
yeah, you want to be through all that so that there's nothing hanging over you. So that just goes back to you got to take care of your house first. If it's going to require you, if that is something that's going to require you to buy, you've got to do that, which here's the scary part. They're like, okay, well, then I just became homeless. And so, yeah, you may have to be homeless for a little bit.
Yep.
But that's where we can, at that point, you're totally free and clear to make a decision on a house here.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that you stay in Airbnb for 2 months or whatever that looks like. But we can't start making plans over here when this isn't shored up.
And that's what I say. Like, that's why 95% of it's just talk, because a lot of people can't get stuff in line or won't get stuff in line, and there's just too much. So that's it. One of the questions that comes up is like, when is it too early? When is too early to be looking at a house or buying a house? Well, get home figured out first.
Right.
Get that squared away, and then start looking at it. And it's good because I ran into a guy at Richie Cream that was from Chicago, Raphael. He was down in Florida with his family vacationing, and they were like, hey, let's drive up through Tennessee, because like my 10-year plan, and he had it like in his head, like, this is my 10-year plan. Like, I want to start looking. I need to start laying the groundwork down, and checking boxes. Like, and that's what you need to do.
Right.
Like, and I think that's where a lot of people got caught up in the COVID thing. It's just, I need out. Like,
Right.
New York is oppressing me, or California, or, and people were going everywhere. Texas, Idaho, wherever you want to call it. But you can't just, the home is so big. Home ownership is so big. You can't just, it's not a car. Like, you can't just go get rid of it and then grab a new one.
No.
So,
and like I said, there's so many, their bigger kicker being that, like, making that decision, then what do I do here? You can get through all those stages, but that, again, that lender's going to want to know when she sees that your home's on the market and you've already got a contract on it and this is going on, then they know they can then make a plan for your finances for here based on that, but not when you owe, because she's going to look at it. If it's just sitting there, it's not, under contract, or we are not well on our way to a closing for you, then that's an additional debt that you have in their eyes. It's going to be much harder to do something here.
Okay.
But then, like I said, and then this is why I say it's so important to talk to that lender, because they can look at things and do things. She's going to know all the tricks, just like I'm going to know the tricks to getting in a house and writing the contract. That's their area. I always say everybody needs to stay in their lane. I don't try to be a lender. I don't try to be a builder. I need to be the realtor. But that's what she's been able to do on 2 of these people that I didn't even really think of. And it all has to do with, like, having an older person moving and their type of income. Down to she would not be able to purchase a home on her own because of she's just living off of Social Security. When you're moving out of state, there's all these little, if it's a loophole or whatever you want to call it, that they were able to get them started. Well, that lender's the only person that's going to be able to tell you that. So until you can lay it all out before them,
well, and that's why you have to build a relationship going into, I think we talked about it. If you're going into something like this, you need to have a good relationship with a realtor that's going to bat for you, that knows stuff, because they have the right people on the other side of things. And you need to build a relationship. It's not just, hey, this person's going to sell me something.
Right.
Like, you need to have, like, get on the same page. You come out here, go to Southern Grace, have some coffee.
Right.
You're going to invest in it. You need to invest the time and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah. And then it only helps. Like these people that we started, some of those first ones that called on me after your video, or after you had given them my information, that's where it's even gotten. Of course, they're following me on social media. They're watching, down to when I was at a baseball game, they're asking questions, where's that at? That's just part of now it's just a conversation we're having, because we are now building our relationship. And I can say, well, this is we're at King's Academy and this is in Seymour, which is not that far.
Right.
That's part of how we get, to getting them in a place.
It's crazy. Think about having a relationship with someone, like talking to someone, like network. Like, we're
Seriously.
we got away from that. Like, and it just, even with like COVID, just being able to sit with somebody and talk and have a conversation and just engage, like, the relationship needs to get a little bit more valuable. I think you need to find that value again in the relationship.
And that's probably for me, that's a big thing for me and a huge thing for my business. If anything, I've had other realtors say, you fall in love with everybody. You love everybody. It's all about, to me, it is all about relationships. Yeah. And that's just what I have found. That's what's going to work. And the people who can't form those relationships, or even like during COVID when everything was crazy, those are the people that were, if it were agents or whoever that were, floundering business owners, because they didn't have good solid relationships with people, and so they were panicking.
Yep.
Like, where's my business going to come from? Because they couldn't go do their thing at the coffee shop or go to different things because they had not. It was all just in that moment, in that time, just like the people you're saying, that you referred to. If they're not here writing a contract right now, they don't want anything to do. They don't want to invest in them because it can take a long time. Yep. Like I have these, several of these people that were going on a year and a half that have not made it here yet. But I can easily talk to them now and say, oh my gosh, remember the house that we were in Farragut? Because they've been here like 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
They're doing the homework.
Yep.
So I'm going to do my part too. Yep. When they send me something and say, we think this looks good. Well, I'm out there.
Yeah.
We're doing FaceTime videos. I've written contracts without them being here, whether they've gotten accepted or not. But that's where we are. But that took a year to get us there.
And we're so instant right now. We need it now. Like you got to put work in on both sides.
Right.
And, it's good. And that's why I keep referring you, because you're not the realtor that's out there just to check a box and sell a house.
No.
One house a month, I'm good. Like that's it. Like you take pride in it. It's no different than me doing video. Like it's fun.
It's fun.
You like doing it.
You love it. Yeah, that's the thing. I love it. I love my job. It's kind of crazy to think that it's your job. I'm like, I can't believe I do this every day.
What's something about East Tennessee that most people don't know? Like, what's your favorite part about East Tennessee?
Oh, gosh. Probably their days. I know this sounds crazy. And it's just recently, just because it's gotten warmer. Like, to pull out on the road and to just have to go slow because there's a tractor in front of you. Or literally there's some construction going on. It's my old principal from my school, which at his house. That's probably one of the things, you pretty much know everybody.
Yeah.
He was getting new siding on his house, and there's some guy working, kind of an older guy, had his shirt off, totally just tanned, burn-up skin. Yeah. And I'm like, when I drove past and the sun was shining in, and you see that, and I'm like, I love that.
Yeah. Just people out living. Like, kind of just enjoying why we're here, right?
Or even just a little guy was trying to back I'm not sure what he was thinking, but he was trying to back his boat in to on the driveway off of Morganton Road, which is where we're just off of Morganton.
Okay.
He was struggling. So all traffic stopped.
Just stops. Yep.
A couple guys get out.
Help them out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I think. I love this.
Yeah.
This is what I love.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it's, or whatever. It's that, like the little, and I've not done it in a while, but I used to do what I call Travel and Tuesday.
Okay.
And I'll go around to different, if it's businesses, whatever, do a video, or for me, photos from that, and just talk about, but like I said, like down here at Woody's, it used to be a BP, now it's a Marathon. Best hot dogs in Hoag County. Yeah, right here off Morganton. And that's why I'm like, I have gotten a biscuit or a hot dog from that store probably every day of my life since I could drive a car. He watched me wreck my first car.
Oh, no.
Right there out in the store. That's what living here is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's what drew us here. Like, my whole story that I always go back to is I was sitting at a Bojangles over in Sevierville, and I just kind of watched life go on around me, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, I never knew this really happened. Like, I thought it was only movies or TV. Because all we've known in California is go, 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 because you had to.
Yeah.
You had to keep going. You had to work. You had to pay the bill. You had to... you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You have to enjoy life when you're
Yeah.
out here, and you find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's just, time is just, it's funny that you say, like, you know, just driving around and, like, time, you know, taking your time and not being in a rush. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest reward Tennessee offers, is time.
Yeah.
You get your time back.
It's like, or when I think I said earlier about something, it's slow.
Yeah.
And, or just like I said, everybody knows everybody. I can say to my dad, like, had a Chicago customer ask about, like, when he was writing a contract on land, you know, we don't always, like, about buried hazardous material. Like, of course, that box is there. And he's like, you know, well, we always have to check that here. And I'm like, and so I'm just, you know, always quizzing. Like, anytime I have a question, I'm going to ask my dad about it. And he's like, well, I mean, unless it's out there, unless you were buying something out next to so-and-so's old place, there's not anything buried out there. You know, just maybe out there you might want to check.
Yep.
That's what being here is. Yeah.
It's cool. All right. Anything else you got?
I don't think so.
I think that answered everything. It's a lot of questions.
It is a lot of questions. Hopefully we answered.
Yeah, hopefully
them
we
well.
answered it all. If there's more, or something we didn't cover, you know, and these are specific, not just like, hey, where should I move to?
Right.
You know, if you truly are invested in it and you want to make the move,
We got to get the process started.
Yeah.
You got to get it going. And two, I think, like I said, one of the first steps, if they can have the conversation with the lender, then that tells us what we have to do.
Yeah.
Because they may not, a lot of times you don't know that, oh, actually, we don't have to sell our house here immediately. I mean, like, that was one of the things. And I have this stuff like that could be something, and I have lots of, like, when we're talking about links or how do we find out things, I have tons of links. I have tons of things that, like, I'll send to people. I had a Chicago couple flying, and that's what he said. She read all this stuff on the flight and felt like she stepped out knowing all kinds of things.
That's good.
I can send those things, like, that stuff that you're going to sit on the couch at night and just read over and look. I can get those things to anybody that would want it. But just like the lender, one of my girls that I love had even said, that you just don't think about. But she was even saying, if a buyer is able to qualify using new base salary only, they can actually close up to 60 days before the start of a new job.
Oh, wow.
So there's
That's
all
huge.
kinds of things,
Yeah.
but you won't know that until you talk to her.
Right.
So we can get everybody in contact with who they need to, get the homework done, then you know what you can do.
Okay.
But
Cool.
every scenario is different. That may work for one person, but it may not be a go for
Yep.
the next one. But only she's going to be, the two of them are going to
Okay.
be able to hash all that out.
Cool.
So,
Mandy B Street. You can follow her on Instagram, Mandy_B_Street.
there you go.
Instagram is my favorite, just
Me
because I
too.
can keep my conversations there, and like I can mark them as unread. I can go through and flag, and like that's
Yeah.
where all my conversations are. Because YouTube
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
a dumpster fire when it comes to replies and stuff. Like, they haven't figured it out, which I get. Any preferred ways they contact you? Email or
Email, or probably email is email or Instagram. That's
Okay.
kind of where a lot of the conversations, and then we'll end up going from there, and I can put them in my system and get them the
Okay.
information out. But email or Instagram is
Email
the best
is-
first. MandyBstreet@gmail.com.
just MandyBstreet@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, thanks. This is
You're
fun.
welcome.
This is good. Yeah,
Thanks.
like, just hope provides value
Yeah.
to some people out there that are looking to actually make the jump and do it, and that's good.
Yeah.
A lot of info in there, so.
I know.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, so that was good. That was a long chat. It's probably gonna be like an hour or so, or maybe even more, but hopefully that will bring value to y'all. It's so many people leave questions and just engage in that conversation, and y'all have had your own conversations with Mandy, and it's been fun. So hopefully that provides value, and someone can do something with that stuff. And best of luck to you if you are house hunting and find your way to East Tennessee, or any other state for that matter. Yeah, it's good stuff. See you from East Tennessee.